Okay, hi, good evening everyone. I was Shabbos in Baltimore, just to tell the Olam. What? No, the Kehillah of Moshe Hauer. What? Yeah, the Shloshim was on Shabbos. So they asked me to come, was to navigate. Baruch Hashem was Matzliach. Baruch Hashem. I hope. Okay, Rabbi Say. We're starting Parshas Toldos. By the way, Eila told us Noach. The Eila told us Noach, Yitzchak ben Abraham. And then what does it say over there? Eila told us Noach. And here it says, Ve'eila told us Noach. So how come here it's called Parshas Noach, and here it's called Parshas Toldos? I understand. Why is it called Yitzchak? How come if this was called Noach, why isn't this one called Yitzchak?
That was about Noach. This is about the Toldos.
I'm sorry?
That whole parsha was about Noach.
It's about Noach.
This is about the Toldos of Yisrael.
It's about what?
It's about the Toldos of Yitzchak.
Okay.
Should we call Toldos Yitzchak?
The Toldos. Fine.
Maybe that's why Rashi says
Yaakov Esav on Pasha.
because he wants to differentiate.
Yeah, so he said, yeah.
I'm saying.
Very possible. Okay, Rabbi Yisai. Let's start. Let's give a look. There's a Geshmaka Indian here. Let's give a look in Perek Kafei, Pasuk Kafei. Moshe Dalton. Vayetza Arishon Admoni Kuloi Kader Seyar Vayikreu Shmoi Esav. That's in Pasuk Kafei. So let's give a look at the Rashi. What's Vayikreu B'Loshen Rabim? Says Rashi, Vayikreu Shmo Esav Hakol Karu Lo Ken. Everybody called him that. What do you think Rashi is coming to explain? What's Rashi explaining in this little dibur?
Two things.
A, he wants to explain the Lashon Rabbi. What's Vayikru'u? So he says Hakol Koru. But then he adds, he wants to explain the name Esav. What does the mean Esav mean? Esav means from the word Asui, Nasa, completed. Okay. That's the first Rashi. Let's see the next pasuk. Va'achechen yotza achiv v'yodo acheses ba'akev Esav va'ikra shmo Yaakov v'yitzchak ben shishim shana beled esoisam. Okay, so it says Rashi there. Va'achechen yotza. Let's see the Rashi. We're going to see ba'akev Esav, the second Rashi in that pasuk, and Perek Kafei pasuk above the second Rashi. We'll skip the first one. Ba'akev Esav. Siman she'en zeh maspik ligmor malchusoi ad shezeh oimed v'not leimeno. It's a siman that Yaakov will chap at the end Esav's malchus. Esav will not finish his whole tenure. Towards the end, whatever the end is, let's say 5% or 10%, when he reaches that end, Yaakov will come and chap around from him. Melech Mashiach will take around from the malchus from Esav. And how is that? Because the Ekev is the end of the Guf, it's the soif of the Koima, and that's what Yaakov's holding on to. That means he's going to take to himself that end part. That's what Rashi says. Vayikra Shmo Yaakov HaKodesh Baruch Hu. So if I say, let's ask a question, Pashim Shah. Pashas Rashi is oimed, here once it says Vayikru, and then once it says Vayikra. One of them is normal. One of them is Kedarka, whatever it is. There's one that's Shaloi Kedalkai. So you have room only for one drasha. You don't have room for two drashas. Because one. So how come Rashi is dashing both? That Vayikru he says Hakol Koru, and then Vayikru means HaKodesh Baruch Hu. If one of them's normal, so there's nothing what to say. That's the kasha that the Maharai asks. So one of the Mefarshim Rashi that the Maharal quotes, and the Gur here, he asks this kasha. Meaning, one of them is Beseder. So how can we darshaning both? Answers the moral that the normal is to say Vayikra. That's the normal. That's again when it says Vayikru, it's a pella. So Rashi has to explain Hakol Karu. But what Rashi is bothered by here by Vayikra is not that it says Lashon Yochid. That's normal. Rather, the question is, why doesn't it say who gave the name? Why is it such an anonymous? Vayikra who? If in the previous pasuk you said Vayikru, you said who's calling him, Hakol. That's saying who they are. So how come in the second pasuk you're leaving it? You're not explaining who it was. Why is it a mystery? On that, the answer is answer number one: Hakadosh Baruch Hu, meaning Hakadosh Baruch Hu is always a nister, and therefore he's a nister here as well. That's what the Mal explains. We're basically touching upon the side of the Rashba, the famous Rashba in Chelik Hey Siman Nun Beis. How come a bracha has a harkava of noichach and nister? Right? Nobody say Buvus to Rashba. You say Baruch Ata. You're referring to Hakadosh Baruch Hu directly. Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Kidishanu. You should have said Asher Kidashtanu. Asher Kidashtanu b'mitzvosecha. Bavus tehara of the Rashba. How come the bracha, Birkas HaMitzvahs, has a hakava of noichach and then you switch to nistar? Says the Rashba, I just saw before, that for sure the Bali Kabbalah have what to say on it, but he says, what I would say is, our relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu was built on two pinot, on two Yesodis. Yesod number one is that Kodesh Baruch Hu is seen everywhere through his Maaseh. Mala ha'aretz k'denecha. But Meidach is to remember that he himself, no one has a clue who he is. Not even Moshe Rabbeinu. When it says Chamishim Shari Bina Nimsu LeMoshe Choser Achas, the Gemara in Moshe, the Gemara in Nedarim, explains the Ran in Nedarim, which Shar was not given over to him? Yedias HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Ramban says the same thing also in the Akdama to Chumash. Is Mimeile to bring out that we have this dual relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, that from one angle he's seen the whole time, and from the other angle we don't have a clue who he is. So the hakava is, when we're speaking to him, noichach and nistar. That's what the Rashba says. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, I remember I had to study it for the Bagrut, the A levels, when I was a teenager. He has a piyut, a shir. Ayeh emtzacha, where can I find you? Umekumcha, tamir v'ne'elam, tamir with a tet. You're hidden. V'ayeh lo emtzacha, ukvotcha male olam. Where can I find you? Where can't I find you? Where can I find you when you're so hidden? And where can I not find you when you're everywhere? Right? That's Abid Alevi's share. Okay. So meaning the natural, mysterious one is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's always a nister. That's how the Maral explains answer number one. Then Rashi goes on. Dover Acher, says Rashi. Nochab Pshat. Yeah. We'll skip the brackets. Aviv Korel Yaakov. Al Shem Achizas Ha'akev. His father called him Yaakov because he's holding on to the hid. So, what do you mean? So how come it's not, if the question of Rashi is, why is it a mystery? Why doesn't it say who it is? The answer is, it's a father. A father's normal that he calls the name. That's how it's done. All of us probably were called after our fathers as well.
Next week's parsha by the
What?
In next week's parsha by the Shvatim, there it says Shikol.
Shikol. Okay, so
No, all of them by
Avram himself.
Tzemik Yisham Hashem Yisnuro.
okay. But since it doesn't say Lashon Nekeva here, so Lashon Zachar is probably a father.
What?
V'tikas Lashon Nekeva.
All of them by
Okay, so fine. But when it says Vayikra Lashon Zachar, the default is a father. Rabbi say it's so meduyuk in Lashon Rashi what they're all saying. Because what does Rashi say? Aviv Koreloi. Why doesn't it say Yitzchak Koreloi? Why is Rashi saying Aviv? Whenever Rashi doesn't call someone by his name, there's a reason. It's to say it's the Tata. It's the father doing it. Meaning, your question is, how come it doesn't say his name? The answer is, it's the default. If it says Lashon Zachar, it's a father.
By Yisroel, the Pasuk says, Vayikra Avrom Es Shem No. So there, the Pasuk Taka does say.
It does say. So that has to be understood. But over there, maybe because Hagar was told first, you might have thought Hagar did it.
No, but this is Yitzchak.
I know, but it says before.
How come we call Yitzchak?
Yitzchak.
So there the Pasuk says, Vayikra Avrom.
So I guess you have to say it once. You have to say it once that father did it. You have to, once you say it once, I got it. One time it has to be said.
I mean, this is the first time.
Otherwise, where do I know it from?
Yes.
From my next door neighbor?
It also says Vayikra Avram Shem Benai Yishmael.
Yishmael. But there I understand it because over there she was already told. Okay, Rabbi said it's a good. We have to check all the other cases, but that's what the Maral says here. Fine.
Who do you think has the right to call their child
I don't know. Now, Rosh, what do you say about the? I want to ask another question before we go on.
Wait.
The kid, I don't know. Fine. Let me again. Rabbi say, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu called him that name, how did everybody know about it? Some practical question. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu based in Shalmana, I don't know, called him Yaakov, so everybody knew it. What? No, there's a Dova Acha. It's two pshatim. It's two pshatim, right? Dova Acha means it's two pshatim. Dova Acha means two pshatim. What? Yeah, in Ruach HaKodesh. Okay. You can say it's Ruach HaKodesh. Fine. Now, we're saying, look back and listen to Rashi. How come Rashi says only on the second pshat, Al Shem Achisas HaEkev? How come it's saying according to the first pshat? Give a look at the Rashi again. What does it say? Nochmal. Vayikra Shmo Yaakov, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Dovar Acher, Aviv Kolo Karakov. Al Shem Achisas HaEkev. And the first time, when the Ebershter called him Yaakov, it's not because of Achisas HaEkev? Why not? Mechet has to say it's only one of them.
Esau says later what the reason for Yaakov's name was as well.
She'akveni.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yitzchak can't name after something's going to happen in the future.
So meaning, so the Maral says, the Maral explains this, and he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu called him Yaakov, like what Rashi said right here, that at the end of the Doyos, Yaakov will take the Malchus from Esau. But that obviously Yitzchak can't see. He can't see what will be in the future, only he had to Ruach HaKodesh, a specific one. So therefore, each one, Rashi's doing his job on each one. Namely, Nochamal. By HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you don't have to add anything. Because he just said before, the Achisas HaEkev is a Siman, then he'll chap around the Malchus at the end. I'm sure it's an important phenomenon. So therefore, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu called him. But when you say Yitzchak called him, how could Yitzchak know what's going to happen 3,000-4,000 years down the road? So here Rashi had to say, Al Shem Achisas HaEkev. Fine. Good. So let me get weiter. Fine, we're learning good Pshat Rashi.
Why don't you say that Al Shem goes on first then?
The Pasha says that. Because I looked at the sources of Rashi, and in the one that says HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't say it. But you're right. You could say maybe it's going on both. It could.
No, but it's the fact that the Pasuk says the name Yaakov is totally...
It doesn't say Elken. Vayikra Shmo Yaakov. It doesn't say Elken. Yeah. But anyway, I looked at it's two sources, different sources. Okay, fine. Let's go on to the next Rashi before we go on. Ben Shishim Shana. Why? Rashi's going now through the time span. Yud Shana Mishnasa Shanasa Batu Gimel Shana. V'Ruyal Heiraya. From the first 10 years till she'll stop being should be Roy Leon. She was a minor. The Yud Shana allow the next 10 years. Safa v'himtim la kamo shasa avim l'sah. He's waiting 10 years like his father did for Sarah. Kiman shalom nisabra yada shiakara v'hispal aleh. Okay? Now, again, look at Lashon Rashi. Look how many times, when you pay attention, he does it hundreds of times. Komosha asa aviv l'sara. We want to talk about that? We did.
Many times.
Well, you should say aviv l'imay. Or Avram l'sara. Aviv l'sara. So why is Rashi doing it? Remember the Hezbollah? Yeah, because
he only cared about the fact that he was...
Meaning he's following his footsteps of his father. The fact that it had to do with his mother is irrelevant. If it would have been a different spouse, he also could have learned from her. Avram is acting here in the capacity of a father. He's going after what his father did. Sarah is not mentioned here as a mother. It's just been that's his father. Good. Okay. Okay, I say. Lo mekem weiter. V'shivcha lo ratza lisa lefish niskadesh bara moria le'yisod etmima. That he didn't want to do. He knew it's inappropriate for him to get married to a shivcha. Fine. There's another thing that we know. Manya, this Rashi not everybody knows. That he didn't get married to a shivcha because he's oil etmima. Ask anybody in the streets. What Yitzchak couldn't do because he's oil etmima. Everybody will say he couldn't leave Eretz Yisrael. That everybody will tell you. But that he could get married to Shifra, it's not so known. Okay, not so known. But furthermore, the Nikud is this he figured out on his own. Not to leave Eretz Yisrael. Give a look at verse Perek Kavav, the beginning of Perek Kavav, Pasuk Beis. Vayera Elav Hashem Yomer Al Teret Mitzrayim. The Ebershter had to tell him, don't go to Mitzrayim. Shchoin ba'aretz asher omar alecha. Says Rashi in Pasuk Beis, Al tered Mitzrayim, shayat da'ato lered leMitzrayim. Kumo she'yachad David b'me'arav. He can't follow the footsteps of his father. Omar lo al tered Mitzrayim. She'ato oila tmima ve'ein chutz al-aretz kedai lecha. Why did not to get married to Shivcha he did figure out on his own, and not to leave Eretz Yisrael he did not figure out on his own? So someone told me in the name of the Mishul Reb David Soloveitchik that not to get married to Shivcha, he understands he was on the altar, he was on the Mizbech, he's Kaddish. He's Kaddish, it's not a bad zug for him to get married to Shivcha. He understands that. But he's mamash oila tmima ad kedei kach that there's gvulim that you can't leave. It's not just kedusha. He's a din oila mamash. That he didn't know. It's very meduk in Lashon Rashi this chiluk, because look what Rashi said before. Lefi sheniskadesh b'har Moria liyos oila tmima. Niskadesh b'har Moria liyos oila tmima. But what did he say over here? She'ata oila tmima. You're mamash an oila tmima. It's not that you had this niskadesh. You are an oila tmima. It's a nachmat rega.
He's been mechaber to the famous Rashi in Chukotah. The Afro shall Yisrael unach chacham.
No, that's a different thing. That's the Isles instead of him. That's a different thing. The Isles called Yitzhak. Okay? It's a odd thing. Fine, Rabbi Say. Now, Rabbi Say, I had a question when I was going on the plane to Baltimore this week. It goes back to last week's pasha. I had a kasha that I could not find an answer based on what we're learning now. Let's go back a second to Perek Kaf Dalet when Eliezer is being sent off to find a wife for Yitzhak. Okay? And Eliezer asks a straightforward answer to the question. Very legitimate. In Pasuk Hey, Perek Kaf Dalet Pasuk Hey. Vayomer elav ha'eved, ulai lo yisov ha'isha lechet zachayin la'aretz hazoros, ha'asher v'shiv esbincha la'aretz asher yatzat misham? If she doesn't want to come, should I move Yitzhak to there? Legitimate question. What will be if she doesn't want to come? Look what Avraham Avinu answers. He shomer lecha. Woe unto you. Bet tashiv et bnei shama. Why not? Hashem Elokei hashomayim asher lokachani mebeis avi ume'eretz moladeti v'asher diber li v'asher nishba li le'imor lezarecha eten es ha'aretz hazoros הוא ישלח מלכו לפניך ולקחת אישה לבנישם. ואם לא יסווה אישה לכת אחרה, וניקסה משבועתי זאת, רק את בני לא סשב שם. שמה. Now, what is he telling? Why can't Yitzhak go live there? He's not saying Oila Tmima. He's not saying it. Again, I don't have a problem with that. If Yitzhak didn't know the Oila Tmima, why should Avraham Avinu know? Or if Avraham Avinu would have known the Oila Tmima, he probably would have told him. Apparently, Telakash Baruch told him, I'll take it Mitzrayim, and they don't know that he has a din of Oila Tmima ad kedei kach. If Yitzhak didn't know, that's the Muchach in the Pasuk, it's not far-fetched to say Avraham also didn't know. Fine. But what is he telling him? He's not telling him Oila Tmima because he probably didn't know it. What is he saying over there in Pasuk Vav?
Hashem promised the land.
HaKadosh Baruch promised him the land. So HaKadosh Baruch promised him the land. Why should he go? He promised the land to his children. One second. If you promise the land, you can't leave for a few years and come back?
To get married.
Wait a second. Let me prove to you. Look at Pasuk Ches. Pasuk Ches. ואם לא סבא אישה ללכת זרעכם וניקס משום, רק את בני לא תשב שמה. Says Rashi Pasuk Ches. What does mean rak? The last Rashi in Pasuk Ches. רק מיודו בני אינו חויזר. אבל יעקב ben בני סויפה לעזור. Avraham Avinu at this opportunity is telling Yaakov will come back. So he's acknowledging that Yaakov will leave the country and come back. Why can't Yitzhak leave the country and come back? Of course, I'll ask the question even stronger. When he says Asher Nishbali, says Rashi, where was Asher Nishbali? HaKadosh Baruch promised to me. So what does Rashi say? Ben Absarim. According to the Chazal Shita, Ben Absarim, even though it's mentioned after Lech Lecha, it happened before Lech Lecha. Right? Avraham Avinu was 70 years old in Ben Absarim. He, in Eretz Yisrael, he left and came back at the age of 75. So Avraham Avinu came and left. Yaakov went and left and came. So why can't Yitzhak live and come? What kind of reason is that? I can't let Yitzhak go, period, because I was promised the land. What kind of reason is that? Also, Avraham was promised the land. And also, Yaakov was promised the land. And they still went in and out. So why can't Yitzchak go in and out? Yes.
This is in the context of finding a wife
Yeah.
who doesn't want to come to Eretz Yisrael.
Oh, so maybe you could say that. Meaning, if he'll leave because of the wife, probably that will be permanently.
Who doesn't want to
Who
come
doesn't
back.
want? So, meaning, good. Avram went al Daita Lachzor. Yaakov went Daita Lachzor. But if Yitzchak is going to go because he's going to marry a wife who doesn't want to come to Eretz Yisrael, Me'echetei it's Daita Lachzor. Me'echetei.
Also, he uses a lot of Leisosef Shama, which means permanent.
We need permanently. Now, by the way, we said, good, I'm a couple. Even if Yitzchak would have left permanently, and he would have lived Kol Yemei Chayav in Haran, or whatever, that's Afkar of the Haftarah? That means the Haftarah is over? Lama Zokan, he would have left permanently. He's now 40 years old. He died at the age of 180. The next 140 years he would have lived Lama Zokan in Haran. So, Yaakov went to Mitzrayim permanently. How old was Yaakov when he went to Mitzrayim? 130. And his last 70 years went to Mitzrayim, and he died there.
Go back.
He died there. So also Yitzchak could go there and die, and he'll come back. And what do you say about the Akasha? Lo mezokin, it means permanently. Like they say in Hebrew, naniach. Naniach, that if Yitzchak would go back due to finding a shidduch with the wife, he would have to live there. Kol Mechav. Mechates, the wife will change her mind. Okay. Bon nagish is a nachon. Us Yidden, some of us, I mean, the Yidden that lived in England till now and died here. So they're not part of Tochas Haaretz?
Yaakov did make Yosef make a Shavua as well, also a strict, to go back to Eretz Yisrael.
To bury him in Eretz
Yeah,
Yisrael.
so Yaakov, he would have preferred not staying there. To the extent that he made him make a Shavua that he'd go back.
So what's that show?
There's something in Eretz Yisrael, they have to end up in Eretz Yisrael.
They have
can't
to,
stay.
so end up's good enough. So maybe...
If he was going to marry and settle there,
You have to go and
Listen.
I don't know if the Kavur is the
I
same.
I have no reason to say...
Special to Yaakov to make
Maris
sure
Samachber is waiting for them. Just Yaakov want to go back. I'm still Yitzchak would go back. Mechades and that.
none of them ever left on a permanent basis. Yaakov even said when he went to Mitzrayim,
Lagur, yeah.
it was always temporary.
No, but he understood he's going to die there. Anuchi al Chag HaMalon.
That doesn't make it permanent.
Does it? So what makes it permanent?
Attitude.
So who says Yitzchak has the attitude?
He's going to
He's
marry
going to-
a
he's
woman
going to
that
settle
doesn't
there.
want to go to Eretz Yisrael.
He's going to settle there.
I don't understand if he's going to Mitzrayim until he dies. What's the difference? I don't like that to have that. But maybe you could say, guys.
If he lives there, who says his
What?
children- If he lives there, who says his children are going to go live in Eretz Yisrael?
Again, who says Yaakov, the children can go back to Israel? It didn't stop Yaakov from going.
It's Avtocha, there was a-
It's up to Chayos also.
Here you have a mother or one of the Imohos potentially that doesn't want to go to Eretz Yisrael. It's different. Nothing else is comparable.
Okay, you could say that. I hear. Well, Shibuta de Rabnosa, wow, what a shibud here. You know, I think we call the shots a little bit. Okay. But anyway, I'll call Pudim. It's not a kasha from the Yerida of Yitzchak Yaakov to Mitzrayim. Because going down to Mitzrayim was Adab the Tanai for getting Eretz Yisrael.
You know, so.
Who knows what I'm talking about?
Is that wrong thing? You know, it's not-
No, what was it? In this week's Parsha, guys. In this week's Parsha, towards the end, that says that, I think it's Pasuk Zayin. Give a look. Perek Kavches. No, one second. Where is it? They said that they left the country. Where does it say? No, I'm sorry. Not this week's Parsha. Slicha. In Vayishlach. At the end of Vayishlach. Here, Perek Lamed Vav. Slicha, my mistake. Perek Lamed Vav. What does it say there? Pasuk Vav and Zayin. Vayikach Esav es Nosha, ves Bona, ves Bnoisav, ves Kol Behemtoi. Vayelech el Eretz mipnei Yaakov Achiv. כי ערכו שמרה משם וזכתה ולא ילך לארץ מגוריהם, להסס אותם מפני מקניהם. Says Rashi. And Pasuk Zayin there. פרק ל"ו Pasuk Zayin. Last week מראה לדבר, ומת ושקלתה, מפני יעקב אחיו, מפני שטר חוב של גזרס כגר זכה, המוטל על זרעו של יצחק. אמר לו, אין לך לי מכאן, says Esav, I don't want to go, אין לי חלק לא במתון השנית לארץ, ולא בפירון השטר. Going down to Mitzrayim was, that's how you bought Eretz Yisrael. And Esav said, if that's the price for Eretz Yisrael, I'm not interested. I don't want the land, I don't want to go to Mitzrayim either. So So going down to Mitzrayim is not a steer to Eretz Yisrael. Sorry. Wherever it is. Jake, let me call you in a half an hour. Okay? No problem. Okay. Okay? Good. Someone's looking for the whole day. Just to make it fine. Okay, sorry, I'll be sorry. Where does Rashi say this again? By the way, if someone send me a site that on every parsha that you ask 15 questions on Rashi and they give you 4 answers and they grade it, immediately they send you back your grade. You know what it is? Chumash, Rashi, test, W, com. I did it today on a few parshas. It's nifla b'yosa. You know about it, Yehuda?
Yeah, I did do it. Michal, you started?
Michal, you know about it?
We just signed up.
A few people from Shul.
This week will be the first week.
Oh yeah, I thought it was Megala, and I see people know about it. Okay, Mamash, 15 kashas, not easy. They give you 4 answers, you got to pick the right one. Then they give you your grade. It's gewaldig. Where does Rashi say this again? That going down to Mitzrayim is the payment for the Matana of Eretz Yisrael. And Esav said, I don't want to pay that payment, so I'm leaving. Rashi says it one more time in Chumash. Baruch, huh? Where does it say in Sefer Bamidbar when he said Malachim to Edom? It's called Atla.
Okay.
It's in Chukas? Yeah. Edom? Here. Perek Chav Pasuk Yudalet. Give a look at Rashi there in Pasuk Yudalet. Perek Chav Pasuk Yudalet in Bamidbar. Ma'ar al askirchem achva, אלא אומר לו, אחים אנחנו בני אברהם, שנאמר גר זרעך, ועל שנינו היה אותו אחות לפרוע. אתה היית תתלן, לפיכך פירש אביכם מעל אבינו, וילך אל ארץ בני יעקב אחיו, מפני השטר חוב המוטל, והטילו על יעקב. So therefore it's no kasha from Yaakov. Yes, he went to live in Egypt, maybe even permanently, but that's the price you pay for Eretz Yisrael. There's nothing more Eretz Yisrael than going to Mitzrayim. Adrab, if you don't want Eretz Yisrael, you don't go to Mitzrayim. That's the price that you pay. I'm sorry?
She says that in your sign.
And you're saying again. אין לך להורה על הירושה על ארץ כי השם שלו פרט החוב. Yeah, very good. נכון, also you say, fine, good. בסדר גמור, we say. So what do you want to say? I say if he's going down to Mitzrayim in a permanently, if Yitzchak would go marry a wife and permanently live in Haran, that will be a contradiction to the Haftacha. That's what you're saying, guys. Again, why is it clear a contradiction? Because the Haftacha is, I just want to make another point. We that live in Chutz La'aretz, are we, the Haftacha of Eretz Yisrael is not chal on us? Of course it is. Of course it is. So why, if Yitzchak would have lived in Chutz La'aretz, there would have been a contradiction to the Haftacha? So every year that's living today in Chutz La'aretz is a contradiction to the Haftacha?
Because he was promised it directly.
The Zaracha means your descendants. It's also us.
It doesn't have to be all of us.
What?
It doesn't have to be all of us.
It doesn't have to be all of us. So, and Yitzchak's only one.
There's only one.
Yeah,
So there has to be at least someone there.
so after Yaakov, there's only one.
You know, the Rambam does say, the Rambam says in Hilchos Kiddush, in the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, that there always will be Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. There'll never be a matzav that there aren't Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. He says that.
You got a Rambam there.
What?
You got a Rambam there from the.
Good. A mitzvah kuf, whatever, kuf something, we'll find it. Okay, okay, good. Someone has to be there. Fine. Okay, Obisai. Yeah. I just want to before we go on, I want to tell you the Maral in Netzer Yisrael, in the Akdama, says a very thick chiddush on the name Yaakov. He's going on the Gemara in Brachas. The Gemara in Brachas, Daf Yud Beis Samud Beis says, in the last Sid Lovar, they're going to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim? Yes or no? It's a machlokes tanoim, but it comes out l'maisa at the end. Of course they're going to remember. Just it will be Shibud Malchuyos, the Gula Ikar, v'Yitzias Mitzrayim Tofela. Kayotze b'zeh, says the Gemara. The Gemara makes it zushtel. It says Lo Yikare Od Shimcha Yaakov El Yisrael. meaning, so what does it mean? The Ikar names is Yisrael, and Yaakov is Tafel. Similarly, that's the relationship between Yetzias Mitzrayim and the Gula Hasidah. That's what the Gemara says. So the Maral Kedalko understands it's not just a Dugma Ba'alma, rather there's an intrinsic connection. And he says, why Taki Yetzias Mitzrayim is always going to be mentioned, even Hasidah, because everything happened because of Yetzias Mitzrayim. That's when we became Jewish. And that's everything that's going to happen throughout our whole history, Mashiach included, of course, is because of Yetzias Mitzrayim. You can't forget the Siba for everything and just take the Mesuvav, the result. You have to remember, take with you the Siba always. And that's we're always going to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim because that's from where everything started. She'ir shah shiyah Mesuv b'lo Siba. Ulekach ha'ui shiyah Meshiv Machir Zechel Dovo v'u Yetzias Mitzrayim. U'mevi ra'ay l'davar Shem Yaakov Yisrael Shelo ne'kam Yaakov Ki Yaakov gam ken hu Siba l'Shem Yisrael. The name Yaakov is a reason for Yisrael. Ki Shem Yaakov nikra milashon shaya Yaakov maktin atzmo kamo ekev. Yaakov Avinu made himself low like a heel. Ve'en davar yoter shafel min ha'ekev. There's nothing lower than a heel. Ve'dova ze hasiba sheyeh Hashem Yisborach magbiya oto. עד שיקרא ישראל, השם שריתם אלוקים ואנושים, שכל המשפיל עצמו, הקדוש ברוך הוא מגביה ישראל. That's like more in Erevin. מגביה שפלים, like we say in Mariv. ובלכך ישראל גם כן נקראו בשני שמות. כי בשביל שמקדים עצמו, הקדוש ברוך הוא מגביה אותה. So just like you cannot forget Yetzias Mitzrayim because it's the Siba for what's going to happen later, and you can't mention something later without its cause, similarly, the name Yisrael the name Yaakov will always be remembered because the name Yisrael is a Siba, is a Mesuva from the name Yaakov. And why is it called Yaakov? Maktin atzmo ke'ekev. So the Baal HaOros in number 16 says, Lo matzati et makomo. Where does it say that he's called Yaakov because of that? He's called Yaakov because he's a big olive? שיעקב נקרא, ופשטות הפסוק כמורה שנקרא על שם השאר חזייה בעקב עשיו. Or like what Rashi said, he'll chop from the Esav the end. But where does it say he's called Yaakov? Because he's maktin himself. Like an Ekev. Efes Katuv. Furthermore, he's holding on to the Ekev of Esav. So that shows he's maktin himself. If he's holding on to his own Ekev, no. He always wants to be with this heel. If I'm holding someone else's heel, that shows I'm lowering myself. I mean, if I hold the banana, that means I'm a banana? What's the wrong one? Where did he get that marker from? He's saying Yaakov is called Yaakov, shaya maktin atzmo como ekev. Ve'en davar yoter shafel min ha'ekev. And that's the reason why at the end of the day it'll be called Yisrael. Because whoever's lowering himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring up high. But I found today, I looked around, today maybe I got better computers than Let's Yisrael came out. It's a Meferish Rabbeinu Chaya. Meferish. Rabbeinu Bechaya says in Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Lamed, and the Maharsha in Brachas Tafid Gimel also, but the Maharsha lived after Maharal, that Yaakov is called Yaakov because he continued at small ke'ekev. How do you see it in the Pasuk? I don't know. How do you know? I don't know. Maybe if I could hold on to the other person's heel, that means I'm on the floor?
But it says it's because the is like him.
So you see that.
It's
You know, for sure Ekev's the lowest thing.
Right, so you see it.
I have no problem with that. That the Ekev is the lowest part of the Komas Adam, I know that. That's written in a million places. But that's how he's called Yaakov?
if
The Ekev means I understand. Because he's holding on to Esav's heel?
no, because
The
you
first
also,
cut Russian.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Because well,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Nothing to do with Yaakov.
so Maral says Hashem because at the end, he'll chop the Malchus from Esav.
Okay, not like the Maral.
Not like that. This Chiddush of the Maral I haven't found anywhere. I mean, tonight I found it. I was looking up today at 8 o'clock before. I said, the Tzibah's going to look at me. I was looking at me. He said, oh, where did you get this from? It's the Maral in the beginning of Netzach, in the Hagdama. And he says that, and I saw Rabbeinu Bechaya says it.
He doesn't explain.
No. So I want to look up the footnotes of, Mosar of Cook, if they say, no, not everybody does such a thorough job. What can I tell you? No, just chasrom. But I'm sure if Rabbeinu Bechaya said it, so it's a Mokar Kadmon. And I guess maybe like, how does it say about the Nachash? That since he's on the floor, he's going to hit people in their Ekev. I guess the fact that you're being involved with heels shows you're on the floor.
Don.
What? Dan Yishafin Rekev.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what it means there. We can look it up. Good idea. Okay, Rabbi Yisai. Atkan this Nakuda. Fine? Now, I want to ask you one more question, Chabad. Let's go. And let's try to finish Biduk at 10 o'clock, because I don't want to force people to daven Marv at 10:15. Me'chetese, v'chulu, v'chulu. What does it say? That Yaakov Avinu was giving soup. Right? Why? What happened on that day that he's having soup? Avram Avinu died. Give a look at Rashi. Pasuk. Perak Kafei, Pasuk Kaftes. Vayozed Yaakov Nezid, Vayavo Esav min Asada, V'hu Oyef. Says Rashi. That's really the next pasuk. Pasuk Lamed. Vayom Esav el Yaakov aliteni na min ha'odam ha'odam hazeh ki ayef anochi al ken kra shmo Edom. Says Rashi haliteni. Good. Min ha'odam adom adashim adomot. Okay. And then says Rashi. V'oto yom es Avram. Avram Avinu died that day. Shelo yiret Esav ben beno yotzet al-Buzrah. V'en zu sevato v'shivtech HaKadosh Baruch Hu. לפיכך קיצר הקדוש ברוך הוא שנים משלו שיצחק חי קוף בית שנה וזה קוף עין ובשביל יעקב הדושים לעבוד את זה עוול. Right? Good. ולמה הדושים שתאמרו לגלגל? Rabbi said, why does Rashi have to say the whole story that Avram Avinu had to live another 5 years, he died prematurely? You want to explain why he's doing the Adoshim? Because that day Avram Avinu died. Shalom Yisrael. You know, he really supposed to live another 5 years. But he died early. They shouldn't see Esav going to Tabuz Ra. Is that no get the Pshat, that story? I can't understand. The Pshat is, apparently, how's it called in English? There's food, lentils? How's it called? Well, by the way, isn't the previous pasuk show that it's lentils? Nazid. I guess Nazid is not clear what it means. Tafshila. Okay. Now I understand what it is. Fine. Okay. It's something that you give to Avelim. Why is there an Avelus that day? Avram Avinu died. Okay, the Zaynah died, I understand. You know, the Zaynah is supposed to live another 5 years. But he didn't. They shouldn't say Esav Yitzhak Abusah. Well, why is Rashi adding that? The next part, Malam Adoshim, okay, I understand. It has to do with the Pasuk. Shabenu's going to Chazam Oilam. Why is Rashi now telling me a story which I don't see why it's connected to the Pasuk? The Pasuk is, why are they eating Machal Avelim? The answer is because Avram Avinu died. You know, he should have lived another 5 years. Why did he die? Is that a question?
Why is the Torah telling me?
The what?
That they were eating machal avelim. Why do I care? I thought that was.
So the answer is because Avram died. That's the answer. That's it. Because he died that day.
But why do I need to know that?
I don't know.
Because he was about to sell it. Sell them.
That's the way I to tell you when I don't know. And but look at another hell. He should have lived another 5 years. Why? Because Yitzchak lived 180. So what? You don't find that?
Because the generations were going down in terms of the.
No, I don't know if they're going down.
It's more likely that Avram would have lived.
No, Emma's not. Also, the 10 generations, Lamech lived more than his fathers. You see this area? It's not a kasha if someone lives 5 years longer. It's not a kasha. He should have lived 180 because Yitzchak lived 180. It's a sfarazot. Maybe 175 is the normal age, and Yitzchak got another 5 years as a matana. Maybe that's what happened. To ask a kasha based on that. So if I say, I forgot, but I found the Maral of the Gur Ari speaks about it, but not here. In Pashas Vayechi, in the beginning it says, "Vayikuvu Yimei Yisrael Lamus." Says there Rashi, "Kol mishenema bokev lamus lo yigia lemei avosav." Yaakov Avinu didn't reach the age of Yitzchak. He by far did. Ask the Maral, "Lama nichtav?" Well, first of all, we say what? V'yesh b'foshiv shekatuv ba l'odia ki chai Yaakov nitkatzu memei avosav. And don't say that Avram and Yitzchak had more, and then he goes up to my nefkemina. B'kitz Rabbi Yisai, he explains that from that pasuk in Vayikuvu, I learned that the proper age was 180. So when you're saying it's the Avelus of Avram, I have a kasha in it. Why did he die now? He's supposed to live 180. But here's the problem. Now the Olam has, I'm sure, the set. I know that Binyamin has the set. Everybody else has the set, right? You're Jewish, right?
It's online, no?
What? I'm sorry? I could arrange bemis if anybody wants. I my stomach can arrange a good price. But that you'll see if you need it or not. You know, sometimes you don't have room in the shelves anymore. Bemis. What?
A lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%. But the Chumash Guraya, the basic. Anyway, I'll put him over here. Here, by Kuvu Yimei Yisrael, if you ever chance to look at the Maal over there, he'll say it's muchach that the right age should have been 180. And Avram Avinu, that 175, it needs a beer. And that's the Rashi, you have to explain it. Meaning, if you say Yitzchak died Avram Avinu died that day, I have a kasha on it. He should have lived another 5 years. But just if you look up at the Gemara in Saita, and this is Mamish one fish, I'm going to go to that Gemara also, but the Gemara in Saita. Is there a Saita here? Go on, please. Saita there behind? Oh. Ah! Okay. Saita Daf Hey Amud Aleph, the first white line. It says if a Baal Gaiva does tshuva, he'll have a full life like Avram did. Avram had a full life? It took him 5 years. But that's the Gemara, Saita Daf Hey Amud Aleph. There's like 4 to 5 lines in the beginning, and then it becomes a white line. Like the 6th line is a white one. If you ever just look it up, Saita Daf Hey Amud Aleph, I'll ask you next week if you looked it up. I'm used to treating everybody like teenagers. It's gewaldig. Do you know what I noticed? Couple of from my experience. Women like when you treat them like teenagers. Men